Okay, 2-minute drill time. I'm joined by my guys Eric and Seth. And guys, there's a great article that our buddy Solomon Wilcots wrote on the website. Quarterbacks you love to hate, and breaking down exactly why. But I'm intrigued by which of the four guys in that article you think will have the best season in 2020, Seth.
This is a tough one, but I am gonna go with my boy Kirk Cousins because I'm very stupid and I just like watching quarterbacks who fit the mold of what I think a quarterback should look like in terms of footwork and stuff like that. And Kirk Cousins has very clean footwork. He's got very good timing. He has issues. He has many issues. Be it finding the right receiver sometimes and dealing with pressure. But when it's clean, he looks so good. He throws a very pretty football, and that swayed me enough to pick Kirk Cousins to have the best season out of those guys we love to hate. Obviously, he has Thielen back, loses Diggs. Justin Jefferson won't be as good as Diggs right now, but I think he's still a good receiver. So I think he's got weapons around him. The running game clicks, the outside zone boot action clicks. So I'm going Kirk Cousins.
I have a hard time buying into somebody whose number 2 wide receiver right now is BC Johnson, and whose tight end is frankly slower than I am at this point. And Kyle Rudolph, I know Irv Smith is emerging. I'm going to look to the same division though and go with Matthew Stafford. Marvin Jones is not a terrible number 2 receiver. In fact, he's quite good. Kenny Golladay might be the best receiver in that division, at least after Devontae Adams. And TJ Hawkinson's a top 10 pick. As a tight end. They have an easier schedule than Minnesota. Last season, Stafford was top 5 in the league in average depth of target, big time throw rate, rate of positively graded throws. His injury really tanked that team. I think in year 2 of Darrell Bevell, he'll be pretty good.
I think what's really interesting about that group of quarterbacks is that they're all great examples of how much they can swing up or down based on the supporting cast around them. They're basically products of the environment, at which point the best environment is the San Francisco 49ers and Jimmy Garoppolo, because Kyle Shanahan is the head coach, and that guy is an absolute magician when it comes to making quarterbacks look good. He made Matt Schaub look like a Pro Bowl or an All-Pro with the Houston Texans. He made Brian Hoyer look viable with the Cleveland Browns for a period, and he's able to turn Jimmy G into a top-flight quarterback when everything clicks. I know they're banged up right now, a bunch of guys going down in terms of injury all at the wide receiver position, but once they get healthy enough, George Kittle's there, Kyle Juszczyk out of the backfield, the stable of running backs, that running game generally, Kyle Shanahan will get Jimmy G cooking.
Speaking of absolute magicians, our own Mike Renner wrote an article with his boldest takes on the rookie class from 2020. So Eric, which ones did you like? Which ones did you not like?
Well, we liked, going into day 2, we liked Jalen Johnson being the first cornerback taken. He was. He goes to a defense in Chicago that has generated some pretty good seasons out of corners that have not been, the tip top, players in Prince Amukamara, Kyle Fuller. So I think Jalen Johnson's going to be a pretty good corner, as per one of Mike's predictions, in an NFC North where, I think some of the Stafford's pretty good, Cousins is pretty good, Rodgers is pretty good. They're going to test him, but I think he's going to come up with his fair share of PBUs and interceptions.
Yeah, I'm going to stick at the same position, but different prediction. He says that Cameron Dantzler, the Minnesota Vikings 3rd-round pick at cornerback, will be the 2nd best graded rookie corner. I can absolutely buy into that. This is a guy who basically fell to the 3rd round because he ran like your boy, like Kyle Rudolph at the Combine when he tried to put on some muscle and show that he wasn't just a 180-pound cornerback. But go back to the tape. Watch him play at 180 pounds. He's the only guy that did anything against LSU's Jamar Chase. Against LSU and Alabama combined, he gave up 21 yards receiving. He is an elite cover guy. His numbers throughout his college career are fantastic. And if they just figure out that either you don't need to add on muscle or here's the way to do it properly, not in a rushed attempt before the Combine to show you can do it, he's going to be a top quality cornerback.
There's 2 that I liked from Renner's article. One, just that Joe Burrow will be a top 10 graded quarterback by the end of the year. I think because the accuracy will carry over to the NFL. Our most accurate quarterback we've pretty much ever charted in the PFF college football era. and he could be wrong with his reads. I mean, he's very good with reading, college defense. Going to the NFL, he can be wrong, but still end up being right because of how good the accuracy is. So I like the Burrow being the top 10. I also like Mike saying that Michael Pittman, the new Colts receiver, will lead rookies in receptions this year. One of the reasons I like that is because, and like Mike talks about, they do have T.Y. Hilton there, but T.Y. Hilton's a guy who is going to get down the field, and Phillip Rivers, be it the lack of protection that he's had over the years in San Diego, has not thrown the ball downfield very much. So now you have a bigger body receiver like Pittman to run underneath, to run the intermediate routes that Rivers is very good at. So I think Pittman can have a really big year there in Indianapolis.
Yeah, I mean, Rivers has always been a quarterback who's preferred taller targets, whether Malcolm Floyd, Vincent Jackson, now all the way to Mike Williams. Michael Pittman sort of fits that mold. Speaking of fitting a mold, Kyler Murray, Cliff Kingsbury last season took an offense that in 2018 was the worst in the NFL on yards per play by almost half a yard and made them a middle-of-the-pack offense. What do we see in year two out of this group, Sam?
I'm trying to contain myself from getting too excited, but I think the signs are there for this offense to be really, really good. The offensive line still isn't great, but I think the scheme actually makes them look a lot better. They're going to get the ball out of Kyler Murray's hands faster than they did last year, and faster than generally, so it helps the pass protection net. Those guys don't have to block for as long. Plus the super wide splits between the offensive linemen, I think, help them in the run game as well. They automatically create space rather than expect those guys to move bodies to create space. So the line will look better. Kyler Murray going into year two will look better just as a matter of development. But you now add DeAndre Hopkins to him. You give him a top-tier receiver, which gives him an elite playmaker, but also allows everybody else to move like one step down the depth chart and be better because of it. Larry Fitzgerald doesn't have to catch like 25 bubble screens anymore just to give him the ball. They can actually just let him go back to being a top-tier possession guy, and just maybe they figure out a way of using Andy Isabella as a designated deep threat and a big player within that offense. So I'm really excited by the development that we already saw from this offense just throughout its first year, and year two I think could be something pretty exciting.
I think bringing up Andy Isabella is a good point because he's the guy that we liked coming out of Massachusetts, and he brings some elite speed. And one of the things when you watch the Texans offense from the past few years, when they were trying to target Will Fuller with elite speed, it was a lot of times because DeAndre Hopkins was clearing space for him, or the gravity of DeAndre Hopkins was creating those opportunities down the field for Deshaun Watson. And now you bring Hopkins over to Kyler Murray, who we know is a very good deep ball thrower. So that should open up things down the field. And then just being able to always have a guy available one-on-one, for your quarterback as an outlet, not necessarily a check down outlet, but just like, hey, one-on-one, I'm throwing the ball down the field to Nuke, and like that's going to be amazing. I think you talk about the pass protection, the O-line isn't good. I thought they didn't do a great job of getting into the right protections early in the season. They did a better job as the season went on, and didn't force Murray to throw the ball hot underneath too much. They protected him, and then he was able to get through his progressions a little bit better. And then just the development of a kid who I think is fantastic in Kyler Murray, going into year two is going to be fun to watch.
I agree with most of those things. I just think for teams like this, you're kind of a year away. Right now, their win total 7.5. They play in a division that's not particularly easy with Seattle, San Francisco, and even a regressing Rams team. So I do think they improve. But much like teams like Cleveland, much like teams we've seen in the past, where it's a young quarterback, there are going to be growing pains. So for me, I think that I'm a buy on this team long term. But for 2020 specifically, I don't think I can go over their win total, for example. I think it's going to be a fun year to watch them. But if you're expecting them to go to the playoffs, I think that's a bit rich.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.